I want to first introduce the coaches. Thomas, who soon will get to speak. He's the founder and owner of Craft Academy. We have with us online Raoul and Magnus. Raoul is based in South Africa and Magnus in Gothenburg. And then last but not least, Faraz, who's the Stockholm coach. Right, so I hand over to you, Thomas.
Thank you. So first of all, welcome to this day. Here we are again. We do this every, 2 months, 2.5 months, and every time we do this, every time we graduate a bunch of people from the Craft Academy Bootcamp, it's a huge step. And we do this final presentations, and we showcase what they've done, and it marks an end of the journey for us together. But it marks also a start of a new journey for the students, where they go out to the real world to work as professional developers. And every time we do this, I am stunned by the remarkable fact that we can take people without prior experience and turn them into junior developers in such a short time as 12 weeks. And people are a bit skeptical sometimes about that, and they should be, because it's a pretty bold statement to be able to do that. Yet we're doing it every 3 months, every 2.5, 3 months. So I will end this presentation with a few more words, but I would just like to welcome Alfred and Scott, right? Yes. As the first team, and have them present their application.
Thank you. Right. I'm just gonna share my
Hangouts, yeah. And mute yourself as well.
Yeah. Just a little second, guys. All right, that's what happens. Let's share the screen. You see our screen now for us? Cool. All right. Welcome to our presentation of our project. I'm Alfred Johansson. I'm 22 years old, and I'm from Gothenburg, and I'm one of the half that's done this.
Yeah, I am Oscar Bartels. I'm 19 and I'm Dutch. Okay, so first off, what have we built and why? We've built an application called Gather Your Thoughts. It is a smart mobile, it's a smart journal mobile application where users can create entries and categorize them. Entries can be tagged with sentiments and labels. And then that's like the main feature where the app is really used to help users organize their thoughts. But then to add on to that main feature, users can go back in time, you could say, on the history page where they can see what they were thinking a month ago, for example. And then we also have a activity page where there are graphs and that show the user's activity over time. So for example, we have one graph where it shows how many thoughts a user has made over the past 7 days. And then lastly, like the why we made the app to help people who just feel really chaotic and flooded with thoughts. And the basic note-taking apps fail to do the job. And this app is just, the main aim was just, to act as a self-help tool for users. Right, and then our kind of design sprint, the planning, what was our thought process? We used a very handy application called Pivotal Tracker for the planning. And then, and then we break so-called features down into stories, and then it has lots of really cool features. But for example, Alfred and I would vote on each story, on points 1 to 3 based on how complex we think that story will be, and then it just really helps to organize our work and know who is working on what. And then our next thought was to build a mobile application with a framework called Ionic, which we have used before. And then we use Rails as the backend. It does the dirty work, you could say, and stores the data. Another aim, or the first thing we had, was to have the application easy to use. So it's easy to navigate, not too many features, just a fair amount. We also aim to have a productive working speed. So, already from the start going full throttle, just working fast, but still under control. And then we aim to also break big features down into two. So for example, we always for the most part, start on the back end with Rails and then adding to Ionic for that side of the feature. And then lastly, we also aim to work solo on features that we feel we understand are fairly easy, and then together if they are more complicated.
All right, so who is this app for? That's a good question. Could be for anyone, a musician who wants to, come up with an idea in the middle of the night, or who comes up with an idea. It could be, a film critic who wants to write down reviews. It could be whatever you're thinking about at any time. So like if anyone is using this, what I'm using now, it's like this is what it's for. Like I actually got this idea like just a while ago while demoing this, that we're gonna save the environment too. Like, so if people use our application, we can save some paper. But mostly it's just supposed to be a very easy way to write down anything at any time and categorize it, so it's easy to find whatever you want to find, instead of like going through this, which I would have to. I could just go like and have a label, whatever I want it to be, like ideas or a relationship or whatever I want it to be, or if So does it solve any problem? Well, that was kind of what I just talked about, actually. But yeah, it's just to make it easier for people to write down whatever they want to and navigate through those entries. So it solves this problem basically of the traditional way of taking notes is the whole idea. So technologies we used. I won't try not to go too technical. So first of all, we used Ruby on Rails for our backend. See that little cool Rails image there. Basically, this time around, we built an API-only Rails application, which meant that the application was only used to store data, send out data, and maybe sometimes perform some logical operations in between there. But it was not responsible for actually displaying something on your screen or your mobile device in our case. For that, we actually used Ionic, which is a mobile application framework, which you could develop multiple platforms with, such as both iOS and Android. So when you actually click on something in our app, it gets registered by Ionic, which then sends a request to our Rails server, which then does something, sends back a response, and then that response gets displayed on your mobile screen. So that's kind of the whole workaround how it works. So then also we wanted to add a little cool thing that you can see here. I don't know if you can really see what's going on, but so if I create an entry with a title and a body, and then we wanted to be able to suggest labels based on analyzing that text. So if I wrote this, I love my coffee in the morning, as soon as I tap out from the body, we get this coffee and morning, which is basically by this Microsoft Azure Text Analytics. So as soon as we tap out from that little text screen, we send a request to our Rails backend server, which then sends a request to this Azure service, which actually analyzes the text and picks out some keywords like coffee and morning, and then sends it back to our view, which was something cool we wanted to implement. We used RSpec to test our backend to make sure everything was working. We used Sharp.js to implement some graphs that we're going to see later, and Heroku to actually hold our server.
Okay. Next, the problems we faced. So first, we had time objects. So for example, it was on the activity page, we show graphs. We had to get a user's thoughts from the past. So for example, over the last 7 days, and that was just quite a pain, and that was causing some blockers because we hadn't worked with that a lot in the past. Next thing, working differently on iOS, Android, hence the bold iOS, because mostly it was Android that always looked better, and mainly in this case, the functionality always break on iOS. So, for example, Alfred at some point added a cool fade-in effect, every time a user goes on a new page. And then Android working fine. Then iOS had a black screen. It wasn't showing anything, just a black screen. So that was quite annoying to fix. And then false positives. So as Alfred mentioned, the RSpec that's used to test on the back end, there was one feature where every test was green. But Alfred then noticed on Friday, after making a bunch of entries, that on the home page, we have this donut chart, and the thoughts were being assigned to the wrong sentiment. So you could, Alfred would, for example, make one with happy, and it got assigned to angry. So we had to, yeah, so that was kind of like last minute that we had to fix. So yeah, so those were the problems we faced.
Yeah, it was a fun thing. We were like on Friday, like, now we're gonna have the entire day to fix the presentation, and then like after lunch we noticed like bugs we didn't know existed. Good times. So yes, what was the result of this? Well, it doesn't say that much to some people, but some people it says we have more than 290 commits, which is probably over 300 now, more than 80 PRs merged, which is quite a lot. A functional mobile application, kind of, and 0 teachers were under the process of making it. So I think that's something to to mention. Yes. So and this is like the little base home screen. We're actually going to do a little demo now and finish up with that. So there's not going to be any more slides. So please give me applause when I'm done with the demo. And for demo purposes, I'm actually going to demo it on my computer, but it actually works on a cell phone. It was just it's harder to present that way for an audience. So we have a little lab thing here. So here's our pretty home screen. Gather your thoughts, your personal smart journal. Yeah, yada yada. Kind of told you about that before. You can log in and sign up. Let's see if this is opening still. Yep. So I have a little mail here that I've been using the whole time. There's going to be a lot of weird entries, probably, for testing purposes. And let's hope it works. I might have to restart this. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we'll log in twice instead. So here's our home screen that you get to. It looks a bit different depending on, like now actually I have a bunch of entries obviously. So we have this, you know, the header here. You can click here to create an entry. I can show you that in a second. We have the donut, which charts up all the entries you've done in the past month. So you can see kind of like what mood you've been having. And apparently I've been very happy when doing this. A little bit angry and neutral, you know. Oh, I actually clicked out excited. All right. And here we have some recent entries, which are kind of weird. So I like turtles, coffee, blah, blah. And you can see our labels here and the date of creation as well. You can just kind of click on those if you want to view them. So say if I want to create an entry, let's say kind of do like what I did before. I like coffee. Let's say I love my coffee in the morning. Dot. Decided. Well, that makes me kind of excited actually. So let's see that. Then we have this, you know, suggested label. So which is the kind of cool thing that we like to have. Give a coffee. It's been used before, so that's why it's on both of these. These are all my previous labels. You can just basically just create it like that. Other than that, we only, you know, just have this navigation stuff. All your labels. You click here on all the entries. You can see a color code to see what sentiment it's marked with. You go to sentiments, sort by that. Same thing. I have a little history page. So say that you've been using this application for a year, could maybe be interesting. Like, I wonder what I was thinking a year ago. I can't go back a year because, you know, this didn't exist, but I could go back a few days at least. Go back in time, and we have this little go back in time kind of feeling where it fades out. You can just kind of scroll through whatever you were doing that day. And last but not least, the activity page, where you can kind of see your activity. So here's your entries from the past week. It's basically just how many entries you've been doing each day. Quite a lot on Friday apparently, and this is just, you know, for the past 6 months. So yeah, obviously I will have for this month. And we will also have this little the most used sentiments in the past week. So apparently I've been kind of sad the past week. So, but yeah, that's basically it.
Can you do an entry saying, I like to present my final project and see what keywords you get?
Let's try it. What was let's call it final project. What was I gonna say?
Whatever you feel about it.
No, but you. Oh well. I was very nervous before the final project. Now I'm happy. Let's do it. Happy on that one. See what we get. Final project currently. Yeah, it's a bit. It works, but it's not super. But it kind of grabs some key stuff. So, but yeah. So now I have that.
You guys have any questions to those guys? It's just amazing. In my opinion, it's just really congratulations, brother. This is the first time I've seen this. Scott, really. Nice. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. No questions?
Did you have any other people using it, or was just two of you? Or?
No, during the developing this, you mean? Well, no, basically, I showed it to my brother and my girlfriend. Basically, it's during but not that many people know.
But this app is actually accessible through Ionic View.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So we will distribute the app code to that, so you can download this to your own phones and use it. It's not accessible through App Store because it's a long process. But there is another preview application that we can use, and that's the Ionic View. Yes, that's what yeah, I know it works because I've been tracking that.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff. David, you have a question?
Can you add your own feelings? So
apart from the predefined ones?
Yeah.
No, these are the kind of. Let's say if you want to specify feeling, you can just put a label with that on. Like, no, that maybe for the future. But now we have focused on this to kind of have the whole color coding and the donuts work very nicely. We kind of have predefined. But you can put the label with anything. So if you want to make your own feeling, you can at least label it.
All right. Anything else, guys? Okay, Anna?
You have to tell us after lunch the entry that you made angry, saying banana.
Diving into those deep thoughts of Alfred and Scott. Let's do that.
That might have been. That was actually the thing that Scott talked about with like on Friday when we were supposed to do our presentation. That we just noticed this was just all wrong. Like we created an entry with happy and it got added to angry, and everything was just. It had all the right values, but it signed to the wrong things, and we had no clue why. So
that was a lot of debugging, I
guess. Yes. So that's what we spent our Friday on instead. Shit happens.
It sure does in software development. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And now a final round of applause to these guys. Let's the team. All right. Now, so this time around we have three teams doing the final project, and we had Alfred and Scott is the first team up. We also have technology. What are you gonna do? And these guys will present their application. They are 4, but there's only 3 of them here. There's a stomach flu going around in that team, so no hugs. No.
They're not from us. I mean,
no.
The person is not. Yeah, is sick. Not that's it.
All right. Are you guys done?
Yes.
So they had 0 teachers formed. We had all of them formed, I think.
Well,
they're alive, but
we're alive and kicking.
barely.
Yeah, so you don't have an HDMI thingy? You have a tech problem?
I have one in my bag.
Yes. Can you get? Or
which one do you want?
Maybe? All right. Yeah, hi. So we are 3 parts of the timber team. We actually, well, I'll be waiting for this one. We actually have another member, but she couldn't be here today, but she's here in spirit. So let's just make this work. Is it the right one? It's always a technical problem.
Should be. Eso es flippigt. No, ya lo dice.
Get my own one.
Not to read.
Yeah, no, it's broken.
You need another computer?
No, we need the adapter, yes. It's because this one is not going into.
Where is this one? Sorry for the delay.
No worries. No stress.
We are a little bit stressed, but
Yes.
yes.
Remember those red things.
So this is right. Okay. It's like you're show me. So, as I was.
Yeah.
Where is
And the green button.
that? Now working. Okay, now I can. Yeah, as I said, Timber team, and of course one of our members, Susanna, can be here today, and but she's in Stockholm, and we have Francesca
Francesca from Italy, Florence. I live in Sweden.
So how did 4 people end up together, like on the Italian stud and Agatha Berger of Stockholm and Polish? Well, of course, we've been working together for the last 2 weeks, and we've been working together even before that. In this setting, it's been 2 weeks, and we actually wanted to create something to connect families. So it actually started out with an idea of actually creating a family tree. So this is kind of like the first time we sat down, we actually went in, and yeah, I know this is actually a family tree. That's my brother, and he's sitting on there. So we got some inspiration. But then we started talking more about what problem we should actually solve with this. And we kind of changed a little bit. So we want to actually build a platform, a social media platform for families that they can actually share their albums, especially nowadays when people very sad, and also Facebook, and we have Instagram, but it actually doesn't work really like that. People don't pictures online of their kids. So we want to actually start a social media platform for families. Like everything from birthday parties to weddings. So that's how it all started. Oops. Oops.
Yeah, so this slide is about the design process. We started a project with a design sprint, and it took around a weekend for us for a two-week job, where we go through the entire application through a resource perspective. And this lets us derive all our user stories that we need. And then we create lo-fis based on our user stories, and then we're able to break down each story into different tickets, that we call them. And then we create tasks based off of these stories. So in this design sprint, we set the stage for what's to come the following design sprint, which, 2 weeks. And then we, just keep going on designing something very simple without design. It's all about functions in this sense. And we try to involve client here also. So every stakeholder should be a part of this session, and also lets us arrive at an MVP so that we don't go beyond what we set our goal to be. This is a very effective way to set a goal and actually arrive at that goal. And our workflow ties nicely into this. We use agile process where we work incrementally and result oriented. We learn to easily adapt to change using this agile process, and we take turns with being Scrum Masters so that we all can democratically lead the entire team to the finish line. We also use pair programming in Craft Academy, and yeah, it's the first time for me doing that, and it's just been a big part of the flow, and really like we leverage it on each other, and it seems like work could be more interesting this way. And also, like, this is a picture of all our tools that we decided to use based on our initial design sprint, and yeah, a bunch of tools that Francesco will tell you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Scott and Alfred made like an amazing job before, like explaining the basics of what we do. So I'll try to go a level below and really make it like as simple as possible. When we started the coding for this application, of course, we challenged ourselves and we wanted to implement React. So the first 2 days we tried with a new language, basically, that we didn't learn during the course. And we had to pivot like after 2 days because it wasn't possible to move on. So what we basically developed our application on is Ruby on Rails. That is just a framework based on the language that we learn in our camp, that is Ruby. Basically, what Ruby on Rails is the structure of the building of what we are building, and then like you basically start with the blueprint of your building, and then you decide what the user that entering your building, what kind of interaction they're going to have inside the building, and these are called features, you know. So if the user wants to log in, wants to sign up, wants to upload a picture, this is actually a different feature. So you can see it as the user working in the building and deciding to do something. Of course, to do that, like to actually implement even a single feature, you have to go through the blueprint of what you built from the start, because everything is gonna literally touch every line of code of what you started building at the beginning. So it's you know, to do that, it's a process that you have to do like through little things called gems mostly, and you go and install them in Ruby on Rails, and these gems are actually the features. So one gem will help you to make the user able to be sign up or log in. And to do that, like, you know, to make them work properly, of course, you had to test them. And to test them, it's really another work, because it's, you had to create like different environments for your building. And like the first environment is literally a test environment. So you think about what the user will do when enters in your building, and you had to actually test that it doesn't, you know, bang his head when he's trying to open the door because the door is not opening. So how do we do that? Like, Sophie can tell you more about it.
So let's just move on a bit. Yeah. So what we have learned here at Craft Academy is that everything starts with a test. So before actually getting into the coding, we actually start with writing some tests. And in the beginning, it was kind of hard to do it that way, but now it's kind of a safety zone for us. So we rely a lot on our tests. So we used Cucumber for acceptance test, and we're going to have a look at that later, and RSpec for testing Ruby. So I'm going to showcase that for you. We also have coveralls. Maybe Francesco wants to talk about coveralls.
Yeah, because basically what coveralls does, it goes through all your tests, and then it creates a percentage of how much your tests are working. So, you know, I actually discovered what coveralls was doing a few days ago, and I went nuts because it was like 69%. So every day at night, I was trying to raise the percentage of how well our platform is actually working. So we reached 100%, and now I'm really not happy man because of that. But it's really cool because it builds up on the other tools that we use to test our platform. You know, so I was particularly in love with the Chorus the last few days until we reached the 100%.
That's actually a huge deal to reach 100%.
Yeah.
And then I, of course, yesterday I broke it. I took away 2%, and then.
No, it's back to 100%. So yeah, perfect.
But now we're back. Yeah. So we what Lisa talked about during the design sprint. We actually have a look at from the user's perspective, how a user goes into our application and what does it actually want to do. So we've written some stories here. We have a lot of this Simpson references because they're obviously a famous family, and so we've written them more like a long story. And then when we actually started to test with Cucumber, we could just pick out little features. So this is user can send invite to another user via email. So this is actually the way we test it, and it's pretty cool because it's more like writing a story and testing that everything in the story actually happens. So this is kind of how it looks when we have the code here, the implemented code. We're having a background, we have a scenario. You can build these in some different ways, and then this is how it looks in the terminal when you actually test it. So hopefully you get a lot of greens. Sometimes you get a red or 20 or something. But the red, when it actually gives you an error, is so much easier to go into your code and actually find what is happening. Why is it breaking? Or as we usually do, we actually start with the code and then we actually have to implement step by step. So it's really something that feels safe. And now we have 359 tests, I think.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, I can do a rake while we're sitting here, so you can see.
Yeah, and this command rake does both the tests we talked about, the RSpec and the. I can say cucumber, so I always say cucumber.
Yeah, so when we do a rake, we just make sure that all the tests that we have are actually working. So, well, I think they will not. So it's pretty cool.
This is RSpec. So the first one, it's more specific to actually know that actually they show up the information that we want to search for. And then there are what Sophie was talking about, the actual stories that get tested in the background. So you can see that the user clicks in to log in and so on. And it's, as you can see, this, especially when it's all green, is really satisfying because you actually produce this. And then you can see, okay, when it's over, and you see, actually 348.
Yes.
We really created every line of these 348 tests. We really created one by one. So, especially for when you work on this and you reach the end of this process, you really feel relieved. Like today, we are really relieved that all green. But maybe tomorrow, if we implement a feature, something's going to go red. But not only for the last one, but even to the other related, because as I told you, everything is connected. So it's always, it's really nice, to test things all together.
Yeah. And it's also good because when you actually have a lot of files with a lot of code to be able to actually pinpoint where it can be. Sometimes it's really hard, but going green is a great feeling because sometimes you sit with an error and it's red and you sit with it for 5 hours and you want to jump out the window. So this is the RSpec that I mentioned as well. So we're going it's unit tests. So we can see here, we're actually having the tests and we're testing here for a user that the user actually has an email attached to it and a first name and an encrypted password. And then we run the test in the terminal and hopefully everything gets green. So it's more like little units. You can test associations, validations to actually test it out perfectly. Yes, so this is our app, how it looks today. And I'm actually going to demo it for you and so we can see how it works. And no. Yes.
Yeah, it should be
no.
Check if you didn't stop the.
No, now it's correct. So I actually because
wait,
I don't.
You're not sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Let's see you now.
There's always some problem.
Wait. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So we made a little demo for this one because obviously I don't trust technology at all. So this is a user comes here, and so it obviously can sign up. So this is a first-time user. So this is Lisa, and she's putting in her email, and then she's adding her first name, and she's putting in a password and a confirmation, and also a family name. So she needs to belong to a family. This is actually a family platform. She signs up, and welcome Lisa. And the first thing she wants to do is take away that ugly default profile picture. So she wants it to be a little bit more personal. And now she's finding it, and she added in her profile. So because you also have to put in your password, obviously, to edit your profile. And there it is. So now she has her nice profile picture, and you can also see it now in the navbar as well. And then she wants to, she wants to invite someone to her family. And yeah, she's inviting me, even though I'm not in her family. Send an invite. And then she's going to start with creating some new albums. So you just put in a title. A little bit slow today. And create an album. And then you can just start adding photos to your album. Some family photos and a title as well. I thought that was so quick when I did this, but I'm pretty slow. So now she's uploaded 2 pictures, and oh, that was a big one. Yeah. And you can go to her album. And that's, well, you can go to the shared albums. So the shared albums is actually where the family is connected. So all the family members can actually go in there and see their what everyone's posted and recently updated, recently added photos. Well, we can skip this one. You double speed this. Now you have all the albums as well and shared albums, and then hopefully she's going to log out now.
The links are working, so
yeah, just check if the links are working. So we have wait a second. Yeah, okay. Finally she's logging out. I should have just done this in real life. And what you actually get, so she sent me an email, and then it looks something like this. If I can actually make it a little bit bigger. Hello, Sophie. You have been invited to the Simpson family, and then you can actually go and accept. So you'll be a part of that family. Yeah, but it's taking so long. So you just click your accept invitation, and then you can actually come here and you can just set your first name, and you add a password and a confirmation, and then you're part of the family. So if you go in here, you should see her photo albums that Lisa created. And that's it for now. We have a lot of for a demo, but obviously we have a lot of features that we want to include further down the line.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Because, like, of course, when you see this kind of applications, they really look like, you know, like stuff that we use every day. Everybody's using Facebook or something similar. But the work behind it is really a lot. Like, even just uploading the picture, we had to basically connect it to the Amazon Web Service, and basically we are storing our picture online on the cloud, on the Amazon Web Service, and it's not, you know, so easy as when you saw like Sophie's demo. You know, it looks like everything is working fine, but the work behind every little step is a lot, and there are a lot of examples of everything that is working, that is going to call, for example, the Amazon Web Services. So, for example, it's calling a particular gem to just log in or sign up. And, you know, so what we learn is, I can't even count what we learned just even yesterday, because like every day is a huge step. We are like, even if we are doing this since 12 weeks, I feel that every day everybody is doing huge steps forward. Because either like you are learning something more from like the other pair that is working on the project, or it's you that actually, you know, solve a problem that for 2 hours you weren't even understanding what you were doing in the beginning. So, you know, it's not really, we can really count what happened during these 2 weeks, even just yesterday again, because the thing to learn out there it's too much. And the weird thing about the coding is that even like the community is thriving, you know, so it's constantly changing. So maybe it's something that you created like today in 2 months would be outdated, because maybe there was an update and your application won't be able to work anymore. So it pushes you, you know, to get better and better every day, to take care of what you created and get better, you know. So it's like it's you know, I can't really answer this kind of question. There is not even a question mark, in fact, but you know, it's like no, it's really like it's impossible, because it's been such a huge process. And as I told you, really, even this morning before before 1 hour before the presentation, we were just doing something new, something that like we didn't do before. So it's a lot. And I would say, apart from the coding, what we learned too is that, like, of course, like working in a group is really a weird experience, working 4 or working 2 or working 3, because like you had to coordinate, you had to understand like how you want to work together. Like it's like working together with someone, being in a Hangouts is not so easy, you know. Like you had to understand the people you're working with, you know, and it's funny because like every time we reach the end of a project, like this kind of project or the project before, you are really a well-oiled machine. You know, in the beginning, people just send 2 messages. You know what they mean. You start working, you coordinate. But the very first days are a mess. You know, even if you know each other really well, everybody has a kind of a different idea of what you should build, and you know, so it's really it's too much. We learn too much, and I know that, you know, we still gonna be learning everything, because I think everybody, especially in our group, and I think in our cohort, is in love with coding now, definitely. And for what we want to do in the future for this platform, you know, it's of course, now we developed the MVP, that is the minimum viable product, so like something to present, like a demo to you, for example, today. But we would like to expand it, you know, with many other features, like people actually can be able to send messages to each other, and something similar. And then, for example, we're discussing that, of course, since it's an application for families, it would be nice to have a system that actually recognize if your uncle is sending a picture of him butt naked, because maybe there are like kids, so you don't want to actually show that picture. So we could, you know, for example, look into what Facebook is doing about, like, you know, having a technology that actually understands the images that you are uploading and maybe set that aside. So yeah, and as I told you, know, you can't really let it go, because if you want to have like an application that actually goes into production, you know, that actually people can use, you will have to check it like daily. You know, like someone will always have to see if like everything is going smoothly, if there is a new update for something that you are having on your platform. And yes, and I think, of course, from the emotional point of view, of course, we want to stay in touch in the group, to stay in touch with the other guys. So it's very important to keep it alive, to, you know, to have something to work together in the future, and to have it as a basis for other projects together. Yeah. That was it.
That was it.
Hey, hey, hey. Hug you up,
We're huggers in our group.
Wonderful, wonderful work. Any questions to the Timber team? Don't disappear, please.
Yes.
There's a Q&A thingy. Yes, go ahead.
I think it was a super cool project and something that probably a lot of people think about, sharing pictures close to your family instead of on Facebook or something. Is it possible to have more than one family on the platform?
Well, not right now, but we have that in the future. We actually want to be able to connect families and have other cool features. Actually, we thought about it a lot, but we didn't have time to actually implement everything that we want in 2 weeks.
How do you work with associations like Amsterdam? Do you have plans to?
Yeah, we have. Well, we kind of started with that, with associations between like parent and children. Then we actually kind of made another turn towards the actual sharing photos. So, but we're going to actually build family trees. That's in store for us in the future.
No, I think definitely we wanted to do that, but for the MVP, we stick to the one family, of course, because then creating other families, it's a huge step after. But yes, definitely we want to have more than one family.
Sounds like you guys continue to work on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
we will. Then we're going to sell it, and we're going to become millionaires.
That's what it's all about now, isn't it? Alfred, you had a question.
Yeah, I guess you in the future, or did you think about sharing videos with your family as well?
We haven't gotten that far yet, but I think like the idea that it's something we really want to do. You know, do a better job than they did on Instagram.
Now.
Because we have to start making money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to,
Yeah, they're looking for investors. This is basically not a final presentation. We lured you into a pitch. All right. All right. No, so in my opinion, full stack cloud services, user authentication, authorizations, and stuff like that. It's amazing. You know, just the fact that they are storing stuff up in the cloud, it's great. I'm really proud. I can't even express how proud I am.
Yeah, and Susanna,
yes.
we did it.
Yeah, Susanna.
So much love to Susanna.
She have answered, but
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we've seen two different applications being presented to different teams. We have our last team that will come up and present. Maritza and Oliver, please take the stage, set up your computers while I'm introducing you. They took a slightly different path this time around to challenge themselves. Full disclosure, this guy behind me is my son. So I just want to say that. He's a bit taller than me. It's a very weird feeling to have your own son attending the camp in the company that you run. But you prevail.
Yeah, I think so. Well, kind of.
Kind of. All right. Now you will watch them struggle with technology for a second, as we usually do. These things are common for most presentations. Anyway, no profanity. All right.
I'm sorry. Why?
Me too.
What I did? I have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it working? Yeah. Better? Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm gonna stand over here. You can stand over there, so I can
share your
like.
screen too.
Oh, okay. I can.
There you
Sorry. Thank you. So, my name is Marisa from South Africa, and now I live here in Sweden. And then I joined Craft Academy and teamed up with this guy for our final project, Planted. I'll let him introduce himself quickly.
Yeah, my name is Oliver. I'm the coach's son. Yeah, I've been thinking about doing this boot camp for a while, and then I just did it after finishing up some work. So yeah, and I teamed up with Maritza for this because she talked about this idea on the middle course project, and I fell in love with it, and I really wanted to do this with her. So yeah.
Yeah, so we took on this journey. We took on quite a lot more. As some have said, we decided to do our front end in React. So it was quite an intense journey, but we hope you like what we have done. We were quite busy up until just now. So here we go. So what is Planted? So Planted is basically an idea of, it's a plant maintenance system. It helps you to remind you, to keep track of all the plants you have in your house. When does each individual plant need to be watered? So it basically sends you a notification saying that today you need to water these plants, and it gives you each plant's name that you need to water. Because in today's society, we are so busy, we're running around, like you can hardly remember where you left your keys. We have technology that reminds us where we left our keys. So that's Planted for our plants, like helping you to remember to water your plants so you can have some fresh air in your apartment. And we're hoping that this will actually solve that problem for people, so you can actually enjoy life more without the worries of coming home and you spent all your money on buying nice plants for your house and they're dying. So yeah, that is kind of the main idea behind Planted. Great.
Yeah, so like all the other groups talked about, we also have a design sprint, and everything we do starts from Pivotal Trackers. We like on Pivotal Tracker, we set up the project. We were like, okay, now we need to do lo-fis. So Marissa did these lo-fis in this computer program that I don't know about, but still they look nice. Like how we imagined the MVP of our application to look with the most valuable features that we needed to make that we can ship this application. And also we decided on the layout colors we wanted to use. Yeah.
So enough about talking about Planted. Let's show you Planted.
Yeah. So, no, right.
It's open there.
Yes.
Great. So as you can see here, we have Planted. It's plain, it's simple. Of course, because it's you will have your own personal page. So the first thing that you will do is you will either create an account or you can simply log in. So Oliver is going to log into my account for us. And here you have your Planted. As you can see, right now we have a double display, but you have your little login toasty that we put in there. It's a nice React feature that we worked on really hard. I know it seems so simple, but yeah, that little thing took a while.
Yeah.
So, and as you can see, you have your plant selector. So if you click here, you have a list of plants that we have in our database that's already pre-populated with some information for you. So you simply click one, you add your plant, and there you have your plants. So, and then the next step that you can do is you select the frequency.
how often do you need from this point? When do you next want to water your plant? Do you want to water it every day, every 2 days, every 3 days, every 4 days? So we actually spent this whole morning trying to implement a demo where we can actually live test this by adding the frequency and then having the pop-up show up. Unfortunately, we were not successful in finalizing that. But in 5 days, we will get this notification and we will know that it is time to water our weeping pig. So if you use your imagination, you'll see a similar little pop-up at the top saying for you that it is time to water that specific plant. So that's the main idea. Of course, you have your login function as well. I won't go into the future plans, but this is the demo of our application. It's a single page React application. So it means you're basically staying on one page for everything that you're doing. You're not being redirected. Okay.
Yeah, so these are the technologies we used. Obviously, Ruby on Rails for the API, RSpec for testing the request specs and the unit test on the back end. GitHub, obviously, React, Netlify to deploy the React application, and Heroku to deploy the API, and coveralls for test coverage. There's a lot of gems and other stuff we have.
What did you do on Semaphore?
Well, continuous.
You have to tell them. Perhaps they don't know what it is, right?
I can't really describe Semaphore. Really. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, so we built the back end of this application. What you just saw was just the front end. The back end is built on Rails API because when we did this, we knew that we wanted to do the client side on React. So we wanted to have something kind of familiar on the back end where the stuff happened, basically. So yeah, the test-driven development, we started with a first unit test and request spec, and then just work along with the test. Setting up the multiple endpoints that communicates with the React application. Yeah, and then also, we couldn't show you this now, but we have created channels with Action Cable to have notification pushed to the client side. But we we really tried until like the last minute, but we couldn't get it to work. It works, but it doesn't work. It's a weird one. Yeah, so that's pretty much the Rails API.
And here we just did an example of the test-driven development that we're doing. So green is good, and here it's just like how we tested our APIs. Great, and then on to React. So for our front end, as I mentioned before, we used React as a single page application. And we took this on, we had 2 weeks. We've never seen React before. And we have limited experience with JavaScript. And naively, we thought, yes, it's easy. React is popular. Why not? It was not as easy as we thought it would be. I think we had so many nights, like late nights, just working and struggling and not understanding and figuring out why. And as you can see quickly, okay, this is maybe not the best image, but you have the this.state that you have to enter almost like 20 times in one page. So at the end, we kind of felt like this.state is just a head banging on your table. But we managed to continue on, and the demo that we showed you, we managed to pull that off. And thanks a lot to Thomas and Raoul for helping us out a lot. We really appreciated that. And yeah, so that was React. Oh, and a little bit how React works. Sorry, I almost forgot. So React is basically, if you think about it, like Legos. So you have all these components, which is each a Lego block, and you put them all together to build something. And that's just a small summary of how React works. Sounds easy, right? Yeah. So what's next for Planted? So initially, the Planted idea, it was a personal thing that I thought after this camp, this is what I want for myself. And along with my boyfriend, who's unfortunately not here today, we have this, because he can build things, electrical things. And I'm not going to go into those details, but he's going to take care of that side. And we're going to implement more where you can measure the moisture, temperature, and light from your plants as well. So you can get even more data. But then we thought as a fun thing for us to start with, make it accessible to everyone, where it's just a fun system where you can have it and it notifies you. Because these last 3 months, I think I've killed a lot of plants. So that is kind of what's next for Planted. We would like to, or I would like to continue working on Planted. I know I will probably pull in some of my campers to help out with a lot of stuff, but there could be a nice future for Planted. And if anybody's interested in forking it and building your own little water system, feel free to do so as well.
Yeah.
What did we learn?
We learned a lot. That React is hard, but you can learn anything basically. It's gonna take a while, but if you just put your mind to it, you can learn anything basically. Yeah, learn a lot more about Rails APIs. Obviously, we had like a small task before this final project where we worked with Rails APIs, but that was the only like interaction we had with that. Obviously, a lot about React, and basically now I know what I don't know about React, so I'm looking forward to do some React stuff in the future, basically.
Yeah, we also learned a lot of cool new tricks. Like, for instance, you don't always see, if you look at an application or if you're working, because we have so many things out there, you don't notice how much work and effort goes into each and small, tiny detail. It might not seem like anything important, but it does take a while to actually implement those things and get them running. And we learned a lot of cool new things, like the small little toasty pop-ups and like this is one of the things, and also the notification that you get working with Action Cable. And then we also worked in an agile way, meaning that we started off with our base planning of our project, what we wanted to achieve, but not a set plan. And then as we moved on, we evolved our product and also like the way we work and the things we do. Yeah, and that's all, folks.
Hey, big guy. Right, so any questions to those people? Amanda, go ahead.
Yeah, what do you have on that? Where's the website? How do you get to know?
So for this stage, it's just a web application. You need to log in. But for future planning that we had in the plans and stuff, is that you will actually receive a text notification. So you'll have your web notification, but then also you will receive just a text message saying that your weeping fig needs water today. So yeah, that unfortunately we didn't get to that part. Yes, Anna.
Knowing what you know today, you still have chosen React to do it in React.
Yes and no. Yesterday I would say no because it was quite intense. But now that we've done it, I think both Oliver and me, we could give ourselves a pat on the back. It was
yeah. Maybe choose another JavaScript framework, maybe.
Yeah.
Because there was a problem with convention, like documentation that sticks together. It's not like researching Rails is stuff is built in the same way, whilst React is like you can't see the pattern as obvious in React as maybe an Angular, obviously Rails.
Yeah.
So maybe Angular. We wanted to work with JavaScript. So maybe another thing.
Yeah. Any other questions? Great.
All right. Another round of applause. Right. Ariana. Yes. All right. Okay. Yes. Amazing. So thank you very much, all three teams. Now, having seen all this, we have to remember that three months ago, a little more than 3 months ago, because we had a Christmas break, but 3 months ago, these wonderful people, these students of ours, didn't know anything. I mean, not much about web development. We all use digital services and products, of course. We are all online and stuff. And today, they can build things, get stuff done, both for the mobile platforms and for the desktop. They can plan, take one idea from the initial stage through the implementation, through the planning process, implementation, and DevOps. What really happened, just to give Marita and Oliver credit, is like those notifications do work. The only thing is it's my and Raul's shortcoming. We didn't manage to get the DevOps up in time. We did that while the other teams were presenting. We were on Slack with Raul in South Africa and me standing in the back, but we just couldn't get it to work. And we should have tested it yesterday or at least this morning, and we didn't. And so that's a lesson that we need to learn, all of us. That sometimes you have to prepare for those demonstrations, you know. But then again, it's been 2 hectic weeks for this team and for the other teams. And now imagine if this is what they built after 3 months of learning and after 2 weeks of building. And imagine what they could build in another month or 2 months, perhaps working in a sustainable pace, because those 2 weeks the pace is not sustainable. You cannot work under this pressure. But let's say we lower that by 50%. You know, we take it a little more easy, but still give them a little more time, like 2 months or 3 months. They could build amazing stuff, fully featured digital products or services, right? So sometimes when you hear, at least for me, when I hear about my colleagues in the business, like they are like 2 months or 3 months too late, or a year over time, and I just wonder what the fuck's going on. Like, come on, why can't you just ship it? These guys shipped massive amount of commits and massive amount of line of code in 2 weeks, and for that, I think that they're worth another applause. So that's about them. Let's talk about me. No, my favorite subject. Let's talk about a little bit about Craft Academy. So this is what we do here, right? We make a bold statement that we can turn almost anyone into a web developer or a software developer, junior one, and we prove that over and over again. Of course, it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from us, yes, but mostly from our students, because they are the ones playing the lead role in this act. And I think that we cannot prepare people for this experience because it's such a unique experience. But most of the people that are in this, with the help of us coaches, but also help from each others and their fellow students, they prevail and they do these wonderful things. And for that, I am immensely proud of myself, of my coaches, and of my students, and of Craft Academy. So thank you very much for attending this. See you guys. That's it.